Originally, I made this video for the Mac 2's release, but I don't know if it's because I work slow or my man Jason Statham just works fast, but by the time I'm releasing this video, there's a new Jason Statham movie coming out. It's called The Expendables 4, and I'm going to be talking about every single Jason Statham movie for the Mac 2 or Expendables 4 or whichever other movie Jason Statham has this year, right? He has 4 movies this year. The guy just works fast. I'm not going to be talking about any of the Fast and Furious movies because if I'm going to talk about those movies, we're gonna be here all day. And I like spending time with you, but I don't want to be with you all day, okay? Not all day. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Jason Statham was a black market salesman before making movies, and he plays a black market salesman in this movie. This was also director Guy Ritchie's first movie, and his style is already fully formed here. It's a complicated story full of colorful gangster characters and stylish dialogue. In terms of story, this is one of Ritchie's best. The way the ending ties everything together is insanely satisfying. Snatch. Guy Ritchie's second film is a lot like the first, but just with a bigger budget and even more colorful characters. It's more of the same thing, but bigger and better. Revolver. Guy Ritchie's fourth film is still a gangster film, but this time incorporating deeper themes of philosophy and psychology. It's a little bit difficult to understand, but I think there are a lot of interesting ideas here that make it worth watching. Also, it shows the dramatic actor side of Jason Statham. Wrath of Man. Guy Ritchie reunites with Statham after 16 years, and it was the right choice. This movie is a career highlight for both men. For Ritchie, it sees him mature his style into something darker and more serious, and for Statham, it showcases his dramatic acting skills alongside the action. All I can say is this is one badass movie. Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre. Terrible title, by the way. This is a very okay movie. If there is a definition of a 6 out of 10 movie, it is this one. It was fun while it lasted, but I will not remember this movie next week. Ghosts of Mars. This is a very ridiculous and silly movie, but in a good way. John Carpenter knows how to make a campy good movie, and the cast all do their job well. It suffers from a crazy amount of flashbacks and some questionable editing choices, but overall it's still fun. The One. Jason Statham doesn't do much in this movie, it's more of Jet Li's movie, but seeing Jet Li fight Jet Li is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. War. Everyone just wants to see Jason Statham fight Jet Li. No one asked for this needlessly complicated story. The Transporter. This is Jason Statham's coolest character, a driver with a strict list of rules. Shu-Chi plays a romantic interest and unfortunately she has zero chemistry with Jason Statham. I didn't care for their romance at all, but the action choreographed by Kung Fu legend Corey Yuen is really amazing. The Transporter 2. The sequel removes a lot of the unnecessary romance from the first movie, and the directing by Louis Leterrier is more stylish than I expected. It feels like a leaner and meaner version of the first movie. But they really gotta fix the colors though, I mean it looks like sewage water. The Transporter 3. The romance is back and it's worse than ever. The dialogue for the romance scenes would fit better in a horror movie. So much time is dedicated to this utterly cringe-worthy romance, and what little action we have left isn't even that good, because it's directed by Olivier Megaton, who can't direct to save his life. He ruined this franchise and he would go on to ruin Taken 2. With Taken 2, The Italian Job. This is one of those movies that I wish for a sequel. It's an entertaining, solid heist movie with a great cast including Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Seth Green, and of course, The Stave. I especially loved how much planning goes into the heist and how everyone has an important role to play. It's a more intelligent movie than it looks. Cellular. This is a thriller that takes the simple idea of a stranger asking help on the phone and elevates that to a fun, thrilling 90 minutes. B-movie legend Larry Cohen is in charge of the story, and he's good at this kind of stuff. Simple but effective concepts. There are some great performances here by Chris Evans, Kim Basinger, and Jason Statham, but it's also really dated. It really feels very 2000s, and not always in a good way. London. London is pretty unique in Statham's filmography. It's a drama where Chris Evans is afraid of talking to his ex-girlfriend, so he hides in the washroom. He gets high, he talks to people who pass by the washroom, he has flashbacks about his ex. That's about the whole movie. It allows for a lot of natural and deep conversations between people. Some are funny, some are sad, some are deep, and most of it painfully relatable to any teenager. Statham is perfect as the guy who gives Chris Evans advice. I was hooked until that terrible fairy tale ending, but if you just ignore the ending, this is a good movie. Crank. This is Jason Statham's best movie, no competition. It is non-stop, over-the-top action from beginning to end with a lot of crazy moments while still being realistic to a point. It knows how to have fun and not take itself too seriously. Amy Smart is also one of the few female stars that Jason Statham actually has chemistry with. The concept still feels fresh and innovative even now, and it also gives Statham an excuse to go completely wild. This is a drug trip of a movie and I love it. Crank 2. I appreciate how they try to make it crazier than the first movie, but it loses that sense of believability and focus that the first movie had. It also feels like they run out of ideas very quickly. A lot of these ideas go on for far longer than they should, and they also ruin the romance between Amy Smart and Jason Statham for just a joke, which was the heart of the first movie. Well, all I can say is at least they tried. Spy. This is a spy comedy by British director Paul Feig. Jason Statham really stands out as a very funny parody of himself. Some of the jokes drag on for a little too long, but mostly it's funny and the cast all play their roles well. The Bank Job. This movie is so horny for absolutely no reason. There are so many boobs in this movie, but aside from that, this is a solid, entertaining heist film. There are a lot of unexpected twists and turns, and it is also surprisingly violent and adult. And I'm not just talking about the boobs. In the Name of the King. This is another one of those bad video game adaptations that Uwe Boll is known for, but the bad visual effects combined with the cheesy dialogue and the random story parts just made it unintentionally hilarious, and I was entertained the whole time. Death Race. This remake of the classic Roger Corman movie is fun, but it's also directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who shakes the camera like a 4-year-old. Aside from that, the story of this movie is pretty cool. I miss how the cars would run over passengers in the original though. That was pretty funny and it even had some smart social commentary behind it. The Expendables. This movie is a wonderful throwback to 80s, 90s action movies directed by one of the icons of the genre, Sylvester Stallone. Seeing the cast of old school tough guys kick ass is endlessly satisfying, and the movie knows when to have fun and crack jokes. Statham meshes well with all these tough old school guys, and there are even some unexpected emotional moments that give the characters depth. My only problem is with a certain cameo actor that didn't get to do much. If you watch the movie, you know who I'm talking about. The Expendables 2 has twice the action of the first and easily the best cast in the series, whether it's the cameos, the returning actors, or the new villain played by JCVD. The emotional moments still hit surprisingly hard. Jet Li did jump out of a plane and disappear from the movie at one point.
See you later, alligator.
Which is weird, but seeing Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone kick ass together is worth the ticket price. The Expendables 3. The main hook of this movie is the newer and younger team. As much as I like people like Ronda Rousey and Glenn Powell, they just don't have the star power of old school action stars like Jackie Chan or Nick Cage. They just feel like a distraction from the appeal of seeing old guys kick ass. Also, making this movie a PG-13 was a mistake. Parts of it are still fun though. The Mechanic. I like it when Statham gets serious sometimes, like in this movie. There is a lot more focus on story and character, and I like the darker tone of this movie. The Mechanic Resurrection. Wow, forget everything I just said. This sequel is nothing like the first movie. It's so silly, it's campy, and I can't imagine anyone taking this movie seriously. It is fun in that sense, but Statham's character is too boring for the movie he's in, and he has no chemistry with his female co-star Jessica Alba. Blitz. This is a buddy cop movie where Statham plays a violent, volatile cop opposite Paddy Considine's more calculated, law-abiding cop. Aside from one subplot about drug addiction that I just didn't care, this is a dark, gritty cop drama that I loved for its tone and its atmosphere. Killer Elite. For a movie marketed with having Jason Statham, Robert De Niro and Clive Owen on the same screen, Clive Owen gets too little screen time, and De Niro feels like he's giving half the effort. And I don't even blame De Niro. This movie sucks. It's boring, convoluted, forgettable, and unsatisfying. Safe. I don't know Boz Yakim as a director, but he did a fantastic job infusing this movie with a lot of style. Jason Statham is even more badass than usual, the violence hits hard, and his relationship with the little girl is really cute. Also, this movie holds a record for the most child endangerment I've ever seen in a movie. Hummingbird. This is Statham's most sincere shot at a serious drama, and mostly it works out. The tone of this movie is all over the place. It can go from being serious to being silly really fast. The story isn't the most cohesive, but overall I appreciated the acting and the emotion on display here. Homefront. This movie was written by Stallone, and it feels like a movie written by Stallone. It's a throwback to 70s action thrillers like Rambo, which means the action is secondary to character and emotion. This allows Statham to flex his dramatic acting skills, and also for the audience to connect deeper with the characters and their relationships. There is still action and it still hits hard, but it's not the focus. The Meg. The biggest problem is that Jason Statham has no chemistry with his female co-star Li Bingbing, which is no surprise because this guy just has no chemistry with any of his female co-stars who isn't Amy Smart. But the real heart of this movie is his relationship with Li Bingbing's daughter, which is really cute even though we don't get enough of that. Still, the sci-fi elements are interesting, and seeing Jason Statham fight sharks is fun. And even funnier when you remember that he is a former Olympian diver.
England's Jason Statham.
The Meg 2. The Meg 2 is even bigger and crazier than the first, with even more monsters and weapons. The newcomer Wu Jing is a pretty unconvincing action hero, especially beside Jason, and the story tends to slow down every time they talk about the human drama, but every time they get back to the sharks, it just becomes a ridiculous good time. The last 30 minutes of this movie were some of the most fun I had this year. So those are every single Jason Statham movie. Yeah, it's a lot. It's, I don't know, 30 or 30 something movies, and that's not even including the Fast and Furious movies that I have seen. So my man works fast, and he's actually an action star with a surprising amount of range. He can do a lot of different things, and I think he wants to become a dramatic actor. It seems that way, and I think that's definitely a good direction for him, but he definitely should not stop making action movies ever. My favorite Jason Statham movies: okay, Crank, The Expendables 2, Lock, Stock and Smoking Barrels. The Transporter franchise 1 and 2 is good, Wrath of Man is good, Safe is good, solid career all around, and I can't wait to watch the 5 other movies that he has this year and next year.